Tonight I want to zoom out a little bit and talk about MAGA in terms of the psychological system that it represents and the three sort of distinct groups or tracks that exist within it, in addition to how it correlates with collective narcissism. Collective narcissism is a term that was coined by psychologist Agnieszka Golec-Zavala. She has been studying this for quite some time, has made her career on it. And so for this, I'm going to be drawing from her recent scholarly text, The Psychology of Collective Narcissism. In her definition, collective narcissism is the belief that one's own group, so the in-group, is exceptional and entitled to special recognition and privileged treatment, but is not recognized sufficiently by others. Like individual narcissism, collective narcissism is an attempt to manage existential discomfort. So the inevitable discomfort of being human and dealing with our emotions and dealing with our interactions with the world. The person who is experiencing collective narcissism is attempting to manage this existential discomfort by splitting off an idealized, grandiose image of the in-group that they feel they belong to, where all of the positive things that they want to be associated with for their self-esteem are projected onto the in-group, and they invest their self-esteem in this in-group. And then equally, they split off all of the things they don't want to be associated with, all the things that make them uncomfortable or afraid or cause anxiety. And these things get projected onto an outgroup. And this outgroup then becomes the container for all of these uncomfortable, nasty feelings. Once the outgroup is characterized as holding all of this existential discomfort of the in-group, then it's very easy to say, well, if we just got rid of these people, if we just eliminated this group, or if we were able to just subjugate them and put them in their place, then our anxiety would go away. Well, that doesn't work, obviously, because it's like trying to cure arachnophobia by killing spiders. The spiders aren't the source of the fear and anxiety. The fear and anxiety is the problem. Killing the spiders won't solve the fear and anxiety. Some of the characteristics that we see with collective narcissism, the interior experience of someone who has these beliefs, are a lot of negative affect. So that's negative emotions and feelings. That can include humiliation, sadness, anxiety, anger, frustration, low self-esteem, low self-regard. We also see siege mentality, so, thinking that everyone is out to get you, paranoia. We see zero-sum thinking, that's, somebody else has something, it means I don't have it. Somebody else's, increase in their living standard means mine decreases. We see aggression and hostility toward outgroups that can easily escalate toward violence. And an illustrative quote from Richard Seymour, who wrote Disaster Nationalism, which is a really great book that deals with some of these themes, although it doesn't call out collective narcissism specifically. He says, "When living standards are being squeezed and livelihoods rendered more precarious, the loss of distinction is widely experienced by those who have previously felt valued by society as a massive impoverishment of being, tantamount to the downfall of civilization." So the liquidation of social distinction is experienced for these folks as a kind of apocalypse. And this in turn leads to even the tiniest amount of superiority on their part being the justification for violent inequality. Why are we seeing a huge rise in collective narcissistic impulses now? In part, this is because neoliberalism, so late-stage globalized capitalism, presents the solution to generalized misery as a series of individual lifestyle decisions. So eat better, get more exercise, practice mindfulness, do your affirmations, buy the right creature comforts, when clearly this is not a solution to a systemic problem. We see all around us that the system is not sustainable, that the social fabric is breaking down, and so is it any wonder that folks are disillusioned with these types of recommendations? The fascistic impulse comes out of that failure. So for folks who are experiencing collective narcissism, the solution to entrenched misery is war on our enemies and the destruction and humiliation and subordination of the outgroups. For folks experiencing collective narcissism, this is also why they will often cling to policies, politicians, positions that actually work against their communities, against their economic and even bodily well-being, because any loss for the outgroup feels like a win for their in-group, even if they also suffer greatly in the process. It also creates an addictive negative dopamine loop where as that anxiety comes up, as the hostility is mobilized towards outgroups, and then as the group bonds together in shared hatred and cruelty towards those outgroups, that initial anxiety is relieved. And so this creates a self-repeating feedback loop where the person then becomes very addicted to the release of that anxiety through cruelty. Switching back to MAGA, there are 3 distinct subgroups as a part of the MAGA movement that each have their own emphasis when it comes to collective narcissism. They also will often have their own figureheads, so there's a huge amount of overlap in between these groups. I'm just presenting this as kind of a rubric, so it's easier to break down what this is actually composed of. Number 1 is Christian nationalists. So this is evangelical theocrats, Catholic integralists, pro-life extremists, and spiritual warriors. Their core fear is erasure, that Christianity, specifically white patriarchal Christianity, is being pushed out of public life and cultural dominance. So this is why you see them pushing for theocratic laws or a theocratic state, demonizing their opponents as literal evil or demons, glorifying martyrdom, and reframing the loss of their dominance as persecution. Number 2 is aggrieved populists. This is white nationalists, men's rights reactionaries, anti-woke culture warriors, and tradwives, among others. Their core fear is displacement, that white Christian traditional men and submissive women will lose their dominance in American society. And so this is like the manosphere, of course, so hypermasculine posturing, racial grievance politics, attacking, quote, cultural Marxist and woke globalists while demanding a return to a glorified past where they were on top. The third group is techno-fascists. This is tealist libertarians, tech elites, neo-reactionaries, and edgelord MBAs. Their core fear is irrelevance, that democracy, mass movements, and, quote, mediocrity will render them powerless in shaping the future. And this is why you see them advocating for CEO king governance. Those of you who have seen the dark Gothic MAGA videos, this is this group. Network states and then rational authoritarianism to impose order. I'm going to go deeper into this group in the next video because it's fascinating and deeply misguided. But hopefully this gives you some, talking points, thinking points on how to approach the whole movement from the lens of collective narcissism, and also just a better way to break down which groups are trying to do what.